I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome. We've made it to February, and we're in the middle of, I guess, a mild winter that can't seem to decide what it wants to do, rain or snow, but thanks for coming out tonight. What I thought I would do is migrate back to my seat, but like we said, the judges were here, and in deference to them and let them get on to other things. One way the village operates and is successful is we look at all the grant money and grant opportunities that are out there, and one of those resources is, what is it, Office of Court Administration? Is that the funding agency up out of Albany? We've done various things which I'm sure our very, very valuable judges can describe to you. Maybe give us some history on the grants you received, and I'll migrate to my chair and get ready for the meeting. Welcome, judges.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jonah Treebwasser. I am the village justice. With me today is our associate village justice, the Honorable Jeffrey Martin. Judge Martin's going to talk about this year's grant, but we've been very fortunate in that we've gotten over $100,000 in office furniture, equipment. Everything you see in this room, by the way, was paid for by grants. It's a lot of material, a lot of capital material that we've gotten for the Red Hook courts at really no expense to local taxpayers. It's what we call OPM financing, other people's money. And we're very proud of that fact that we've been able to upgrade the court and you know, our computer system and things like that. The sound system here today, all on grant money. And so now I'm going to defer to Judge Martin and let him tell you about this year's grant. Jeff?
Thank you. Thank you, Judge. I'd also like to point out that Cindy had a birthday, 23, I believe, a couple of days ago. Yeah. So you look younger every day. Thank you. So it's a pleasure being here today. Judge Treebwasser indicated that for the last 10 years or so, we've applied for grants from the state, and we've been lucky enough over the past 10 years or so to accumulate over $100,000 of grants from New York State, which does not come from the village or the town. The taxpayers are not paying that other than your normal sales tax or whatever else this money comes from the New York State budget. But it's directed to the village and to the town. And this year, we were able to secure $7,000 for the express purpose of recarpeting this beautiful town hall and a few other things. So we're very proud, we're very pleased.
Village Hall.
The Village Hall, I'm sorry, Village Hall. And we're very pleased and proud to do that. Every year there's applications, and I want to point out that were it not for Judge Treebwasser's perseverance, and I mean that perseverance with a capital P, we would not be getting these grants. It's not automatic. Many towns and villages who apply do not receive these. However, year after year, we've been fortunate enough to do that. I would also point out that at the risk of embarrassing my colleague, he is second in command of the State Magistrates Association. It's the New York State statewide association for judges, and Judge Treebwasser will be working his way up to president of that 2 more years from now. So it doesn't hurt at all to help someone who has risen through the ranks to have that incredible honor, and I'm just so proud of you, and I continue to be proud of you. But I think we can look for continued good things ahead for all of us. I would also like to point out the Associate Judge Martin, Andrew Martin, who's here and absolutely loves his Uncle Jonah and would follow him anywhere, and he does. And thank you, Jonah, for allowing that to happen. That's all I have. If anybody has any other questions.
Thank you.
Any folks have questions? We'd like to recognize the presence of former Judge Trezza is here tonight. How are you, Al? Well, thank you very much for your kind attention, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I want to thank the board for their support, and we'll wish you all a very pleasant good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, we'll switch gears. Like I was saying in the intro, pre-meeting discussion there, the first topic on the agenda would be what we're calling discontinuance of a portion of Morgan's Way. I have on our infamous wall projection board there, it's a procedural step. Morgan's Way is a lane from Route 9 into the Senior Citizen Housing Project, and it turns left and becomes Lower Lane, which becomes the access to the existing apartments. What we're doing in furtherance of the sewer project, the owner of the Red Hook Senior Commons project is donating approximately 10 acres of land to the village of Red Hook. And in a way, it's not the purest and simplest of donations, but I mean, we then take ownership and operation and full responsibility for the existing sewer treatment plant that's there. And then we build our companion sewer treatment plant next to it. We need that land, and it's in the process of happening. In the course of doing that, we looked at access to the plant and so forth. And Morgan's Way, for those that are familiar with it, it's paved maybe, I don't know, 400 feet in from Route 9. And then it just goes to an unimproved dirt road that really has no purpose, no anything. The owner of the entire property has various real estate corporations there, and their plan is to develop more retail, some more apartment type, residential type uses there. And those look like they might be forthcoming in the near future. But back in the day when his project was first conveyed to the village, there's a little piece of land that's showing up there is 0.142. So it's like 0.14, it's like 1/1400 of an acre. It's a tiny thing that was at one time perceived to be possibly a commuter parking lot for what he would develop in there. What we're proposing is we'll transfer that land to the owner, and we'll create what's called a hammerhead. I'll show you another screen. Let me make it a little bigger. Up here, I don't know if you can see my cursor move around. So this is what the village is going to consider discontinuing ownership of, and this is what would be conveyed to us. The one catch is back around 2008, when a developer ceded Morgan's Way to the village, it was done in paper process, but the full deeding never actually occurred. So this time around, we're going to get that fully deeded to us. So what we're looking to do is, as a board, say this land has no purpose to the village, this has more purpose to us, and this will then give us access down into the lots we're taking, the lot rather we're taking for the sewer treatment plant. We do have our attorney here, an engineer here if we have a question, but it's a relatively straightforward process. But with that, I want to give you an intro because nobody would know what we're talking about with that intro. But then I would formally open the public hearing. So I'd ask for a motion to open the public hearing on cession of a portion of Morgan's Way.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Okay, so we're open. Like I said, I don't see too much involved in this. It's transactional, it's real estate. But we'll wait a moment or two in case anybody has a point or a question. And for the board, we've reviewed it internally. And the big thing is, that's most important to me, I think, when we see the bigger piece, wrong word, when we take ownership of the bigger piece, council will correct all this, so we'll get the full deeded Morgan's Way and the bigger piece. But if there's no comments from the public, I would move that we close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. I did see in walked one of our volunteer firemen, and we give them a monthly reporting time slot in our meetings, but we also like to give them a little bit of kid glove treatment. By that I mean they're on call and on standby for other things instead of sitting at our meeting. So if you guys just be patient. He doesn't talk very much. He's a relatively quiet guy. Rob Fry is here. He's from the board of directors. He'll just turn in a monthly report and say a few words, and then we'll let him get out of here too. So Rob, you remember the drill with the microphone over there?
Yes.
It's probably already on.
Yeah.
Hello, Robert Fry with Red Hook Fire Company. We had 88 calls in the month of January. 47 were EMS and the other 41 were fire. Nothing big to report. We did have a call the other night down at Montgomery Place for a furnace malfunction. And we were there, and while we were there and cleaning up, we got another call for a fire on Fraley Lane. So we did come across Rockefeller to go to that call, and there were some questions I saw someplace about
Oh, really?
where the fires were, you know.
Oh, okay.
We had some equipment responding through the village and some coming across, so.
Just like a different pathway or something?
Yeah, well, we had some equipment down at Montgomery Place, so the quickest way was straight across
Good.
rather than coming back through the village.
Then we went to your annual awards ceremony. Was that 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
It was, and your new membership swearing new officers.
Installation of new officers on January 19th.
That was good. Okay, well, good.
I swore in the fireplace tonight before our meeting here, and you'll get me that updated member list.
Yes. Yeah.
Talking about LoSAP, you mean, or?
No, member list of the
Okay,
firehouse.
okay. Yeah, do you have your report there? We'll take that and we'll let
Okay.
you go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, sewer assessment. This one, I think, I'll open a public hearing and I'll describe it because most people that are here know something about it more than they would have known about Morgan's Way. So, so that being said, let's see. We did post it for 7:15. I have one more minute to go, so maybe just to be fair to somebody that's trying to wander in here. What's that?
Want me to read this?
Yeah, while we're waiting, we do have the sign-up sheet for this, but our clerk will read our operating rules. And you want to do that?
Public hearing. When recognized by the mayor or presiding officer, persons addressing the board will be asked to state their name, address, but not be compelled to do so. Unless otherwise determined by the board, the time to be allotted is 3 minutes to each speaker. Once all persons wishing to speak have spoken, any person wishing to speak a second time may do so for 2 minutes. Comments must pertain to the public hearing.
All right. So, decorum, we're very collegial, not that proper. In other words, we this is probably one of our biggest crowds ever, which is good. But all speakers will be given respect and courtesy both from the audience and from us. And what's odd is if we can't answer a question, we won't try from here. And most of it's to take your input, your comments, and get what you folks are thinking. But the topic, like we said, is the sewer assessment. And it's a relatively spreadsheet-oriented concept, which, let me get it up on my screens, and you guys can look at this too. Just to give some background and history, the village, about 18 months ago or so, passed a bond resolution to fund what we're calling phase 1 of a sewer project, and it's essentially for residences and businesses in the central business area of the village. Places that, if you look from an overhead drone shot, have very tiny lots and pretty dense occupancy, and it can be a mystery of just how they are treating and complying with current Department of Health septic and sewage regulations. We did take a road show out. I don't know how many saw that, where we have a PowerPoint, which I can put up, which talked about both the environmental and the economic sustainability nature of the project. We can go into that a little bit. But the whole underlying concept is that the village center area will be served by a sewer. We have a $4.9 million grant. Let me rephrase that word. $4.9 million project. And we've got $1.2 million in grant money committed from the federal government. And just recently, I think October-ish, 2017, a $925,000 grant commitment. So you add those two up, 1.7 and 925. That's a grant commitment toward the cost. When we got the letters of commitment from USDA Rural Development back in late 2016, we looked at, okay, we now know we have a 38-year term. We have 1.875% interest, and we have, at that point, had to borrow $3.7 million of the 4.9 project money. So we looked at the properties most in need and what would make the most sense logistically to do, and we have engineers working with us and so forth. But we identified it's approximately 127 properties, and this spreadsheet, which I can make bigger here, let's see. Anyone who has a particular question, we have every owner identified on here by location and so forth. But the word assessment and what we're here to discuss tonight is how did we arrive at how we're going to charge those people that are in the sewer service area. And what we did is, one can imagine the water coming into your building in some shape or form, then leaves the building, and in most cases it leaves as septic waste, sewage. So what we did with our water metering systems, we were able to take each one of those properties and identify most current water usage. And Brent can jump in here too. There's some acronyms, and we tease Brent. He's our acronym man, but we will use a term tonight called a benefit unit and an EDU. They're interchangeable. One is an equivalent dwelling unit and one is a benefit unit. But essentially, we picked a number from our village and our data. A typical household uses 150 gallons of water a day. So we use that as the baseline and said, that'll be a one benefit user or one EDU. And let's compare, like say there's, then we have some flex, it's a rule on top of like an algorithm of sorts to get that a little bit bigger when you become 2 EDUs or benefit users. And if you compare, let's say, a KDK property or a Bayrite property to a home, you know, some have restaurants and apartments and so forth. So we did the same thing. Some of those buildings might have 6 or 8 EDUs in them. But anyway, that's what this chart is showing. And what we did, then the math just becomes, okay, we identify you with your EDU count. And what tonight would be about is, if you had questions, we could explain to you how we obtain that EDU count. And then the math of the billing becomes the project cost, the funding amounts, the interest, and the timelines. But that's a bit secondary. But we do have data we can share, and we've, like we said, we've taken this show on the road to different places. And again, a lot of people might have heard some of it, but this was a step we have to do with you directly. And each one of you would have received that certified mailing and a regular mailing just to be sure we knew people got it and could come in. But we're very excited about the project, and we've already seen good things brewing and developing because of it right here in the village. And that being said, we did have the sign-in sheet there. And if you're on it, maybe, I don't know if Brent, you want to wander over and grab it? You're closer. We could go by order of signing in, but more people can sign in as well. And we're open to listening and talking, and we'll try to help you out. That's the overview. Brent, did you have anything to add from your side of the room there?
This project conceptually has been going on since 1947. The first allocations historically that were published in the Gazette Advertiser in that issue of 1947. We already have a zone that's dedicated to a central sewer called the residential 10,000, which has been in the books and on the books since about early 1970s, which we cannot use because we have no central sewer. So about a third of the village is zoned for that. And it's about time. This is the second attempt in the last 13 years that we've had for a central sewer. The first one was a bigger district. It was a Park County sewer district. We shared part of the boundaries with the town of Red Hook. General municipal law of the state of New York, being what it is, have different laws for villages and towns, and we decided to go with the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority at that point. This particular round, this is a village only. It has its own specific laws set forth by the state of New York, municipal laws for villages. The district is the boundary of the village of Red Hook, so we do not have to form a district. And what we're doing is delineating a service area. In this service area, we looked at the immediate needs, but also future needs for potential growth. So going from the north, we're looking at a potential traditional neighborhood development happening up north. On the east, we're looking at expansion of another residential subdivision coming in, splitting the town and the village. Going west, we're looking at possible expansions of the schools, and going south, connections to the town eventually will encourage and promote the traditional neighborhood district that's already been passed with zoning regulations. So we spent a lot of time looking at both present and future needs for this service area. So,
Sharon, do you want me to give a brief summary of the map breakdown so people can better understand that?
I don't think so at this point. Thank you, though. That's one of our engineers that was talking there. As Brent was speaking, let's see. I don't know. I'm having trouble focusing on that. I don't know if it's, but that the gray area is the service area, and you can see it pretty much follows Route 9 and West and East Market Street. When you get to below South Broadway, what looks like a big service area is really the area we're describing at Morgan's Way land transfer. That's where the current sewage treatment plant is for the Red Oak Senior Commons project. So that's not really customers in there. And then a big blurb on the other side is the cemetery. And then,
Can you point with your cursor?
yeah, sure. Okay. This would be behind UBS and Morgan. This is where the sewage treatment plant will be. The senior citizen housing project is on the front end here. So this is not, this is land that'll be used for treatment. And then over here, this area is St. Paul's Cemetery. So it looks like a big piece of empty land, but it's occupied. And then this is the new, relatively new condo project across from the firehouse. So a lot of this big burst of land is really not anything to do with servicing homes. It's, you know, it's really along 9. And then what we're doing is pulling this new project in over here. One basis is, one knows the bigger picture. We have 7 operating wells, and they all sit, where'd my cursor go? Coming off the map, but they're down in this area, off the map though. But so we're looking to, like we said at our traveling shows, we were looking at protecting the aquifer and the sustainability of the economic environment in the village center here. And again, like I said when we were talking before, if you took a drone shot of this area, this is the most compact area of the village as far as businesses and homes, really packed on very, very small lots with antiquated systems. But what I did before I went through the BU, EDU acronym talk, and don't feel embarrassed. When you hear it the first time, you don't know what we're, you know, it's pretty confusing. We expect questions on that, but it's really how we arrived at, okay, this particular building or occupancy, and our projected maximum fee is $780 per benefit user per year. And that's, and then if somebody has an apartment, like we said, with 4 apartments and 3 restaurants, whatever, they might be 8 benefit users. They would pay 8 times that number. And that's the math to get us. And as you can picture, the interesting thing for us is the Village of Red Hook has no sewer system at all right now. We have no budget, no funding mechanism, so it's going to be interesting. We're really starting from the ground up, and which is puzzling to a lot of the regulators, because most other places have something they're either trying to modernize or expand or do something, but they have the law and the fee structures in place. So we've been working these steps to get ourselves to be there. As far as timeline, what we project is taking ownership of the current treatment plant around late spring, and we're doing that for that cash flow purpose. Once we own it, we're going to have to insure and pay the operator and different things. And then you know, the engineers over there on the table, it's a little bit different topic, but they have, when they interviewed you all, they looked, where's your current tank, where's your power connection, all that stuff. They're finalizing design plans, and that then gets reviewed by a bunch of agencies, and then we get ready to go to bid, and you know, we're trying to get it ready so it's ready to go to bid late spring, summer, you know, and so it's a lot of complexities. And but anyway, we did have a few names appeared on the list there, and more people can certainly sign up. And like I said, even if we keep decorum, we can take questions a little less formally. But why don't we have on the names you have there, Cindy? Who's first?
Camille Norvell.
If you like, you feel comfortable coming up to the mic, just that way the camera hears you better. I did, as far as I recall, right?
Camille
Neil Norvell, and my husband is David Weir. He had a stomach issue and couldn't come right now. He normally would be the spokesperson of the two of us. We are at 59 West Market on the corner of Linda and the big white house with the red roof. And we are relatively new to the village, moved here permanently in 2014. We're very much for the sewer system, especially to help the village and the restaurants and so forth and all the commercial growth, and really are for that. What we are concerned about just recently and thinking about is how it impacts some of our neighbors, in particular one couple who's very elderly, and I don't believe they're here, and how they will be able to afford that. So one question is, are there subsidies or any kind of help for people who may be at a very fixed income, who might not be able to? That's not for me that I'm speaking, but I'm concerned about how it will impact on people who may not be able to afford this, because this is an ongoing additional expense. So we have a position of we are in favor of the sewer system, but in terms of what it's going to, we feel like we're residents, and we're not adding people to our house that I'm aware of. Maybe groundhogs, but no people. And so how it impacts us, how it helps us, is really to a lesser degree than how it helps the village itself. And we're very much in favor of that. We very much support school taxes. We don't have children. So that's not the issue. It's really, is this going to impact some people in a way financially that will make it very burdensome for them? And in as much as you have to have one sewer line connect to the other, it's like a Christmas tree lights, from what I understand. You can't disconnect one and then skip another. So we'd just like to make that statement in terms of, are there going to be any allowances for people who might have a hardship financially paying for this?
Well, thank you. It's a good comment. We'll take it under advisement. Who's next there, Cindy?
Oh, I'm sorry. Denise Stearman.
To use this?
Yeah, it's
Hi,
better
my
for
name
the
is
TV
Denise
world.
Stearman. I live at 57. Oh, you can hear me, yes? I live at 57 West Market Street, and my husband's out of town, and he would be here too. We've lived in the village for maybe 44 years in that same place, but at this time in our lives, we're both retired. Almost everybody on our block is retired. Camille, that you just heard from, is semi-retired, or not quite. And I came to this meeting because I received this letter. I just want to remark, this is the first certified letter I ever received about this, and I received it twice, once certified and once not certified. And it said on there that after the hearing, the village board may modify or correct the apportionment or exclude land from the area of local assessment. And my interest is in trying to get us excluded from the local assessment. We're at 57 West Market. Camille's house is next to us, and that's the last one on that leg. And then there's our house, and then we have a neighbor, that's the person that she was speaking of, the Simmons family, who are not, they're very elderly, they're very ill, they live on a very fixed income, and they absolutely are distraught about this whole thing, the disruption. Actually, I'm a little distraught about the disruption to the land. When Mr. Ed
Black.
Anyway, when he came to see us, he didn't mention that they were going to dig up the septic tank that we had and replace it with a new septic tank. But then when I spoke to Brent, he said, yes, they would be doing that. So he'd led us to believe that there would be a trench going across our yard, and they would cut into our driveway and put a trench there, and that, yes, maybe trees and, and then lawn, and the driveway would be cut, but that that would be it, except they'd be running like a little power line, a tiny little power line to put an alarm system and a post somewhere right up against our house. And But now we come to find out that they would also be digging up the whole, basically the lawn part of our backyard. And I'm concerned about that. My biggest concern is that we are a two-family household. Everyone on our block is a two-person household. Everyone on our block is a two-person household. And we all have septic tanks, and they all work. Ours is not even very old. And so we don't really have a need to be included on the sewer system. I understand that for the grant, there were a certain number of residential houses that were needed, a certain number of residential properties that were needed in order to fulfill the conditions of the grant. And I'm just kind of assuming that maybe that's why these 4 houses right up to Linden Avenue were included. Because I know that if there is a phase 2 for this project, and I know everybody's hoping for a phase 2, and I'm like me, I'm in favor of having this in the village. Village needs it in order to be sanitary and to develop properly. But if there is a phase 2, I think that it's going to take place south of town where there's going to be already accepted development down there. And so potentially maybe for a phase 3, although there's nothing anticipated, there might be something for the schools. So let's just say that took place in 5 years. Let's just say the first one got done over the next couple of years, and then phase 2 over a couple of years, and eventually maybe the schools would get included. And if the schools were included, the idea would be to get to the Linden Avenue so that they could tap into it. And that's then going through our property. But if the schools are included in 5 years, then not only are we going to be paying maybe $4,000 out of our pockets towards this, but we have something that we don't really need at this time. When the village extends further into something that's not mostly the business district, that's fine. But we're in an R20,000 zone. We're not in the business district. We don't want to be included in the business district. We're purely residential, and we follow the residential rules about office in the home and all the other things like that. We're not businesses. We're not planning on having restaurants in our houses. We're not planning on making our houses into hotels. And it's disruptive and it's really expensive. And we would like to hope that when it said potentially a part of this could be excluded, that we would like to be considered for that. We're pretty good citizens. We pay our taxes. We've lived there a long time. We, at great personal, I would like to say just right now, the way I feel, at great personal trouble and burden, we keep our sidewalks clean, which is something that most of the people in the village don't have to deal with. So we, in good faith, we do what we need to do for our village. We care about our village. We get out there before the school kids walk. And we try to do what's expected of us. And so we would like to avoid the disruption and the expense of this project at this time. In 5 years, if it's going along and they're going to include the schools, then we won't have a choice. But as I say, in 5 years, we will have paid out $4,000. I have a letter from my neighbor. The best she can, she asked me to type it because when I give it to you, you'll see that she's not signing particularly well. She's, got a little shaking. But she says, I'm writing regarding the plan for the sewer project in the village. Their address is 55 Westmark, 5355. Their name is Simmons. I'm writing regarding the plan for the sewer project in the village. We are unable to come to the meeting on Monday, February 12th because of illness. We would not like to be part of the project. The annual charges would be a hardship for us as retired people living on a limited fixed income. We do not want our property torn up. We have a good septic system which meets our needs. Our property is not in the business district. We have no need whatsoever for this sewer project. We would be grateful if you would remove our name and property from the area of local assessment. Thank you. And they signed that. I'll give it to you. Now, I will tell you that I have not had an opportunity to talk to the people in the corner. But in any event, the way, oh, you're there. Sorry. I don't know how you feel about it. And I hope maybe you'll come up, but we're... Okay. So we're all concerned about them, and I also am concerned that you could have it without them having it, if you wanted to, I suppose. But we don't feel the need. We're two people. Yeah, so do we. So do we. And I would also say that when we did replace our septic, the restoration of the land by the person who replaced our septic system, I'm not going to name, because it was just, that blue stuff and some grass seed, and as you know from working on all the edges of the village streets after the water project, that barely really works. You know, I understand some places were done 4 times in an attempt to grow some grass, but we have grass. We want grass. In the end, we had to sod the area that they, after we tried.
Well, I think we've hit the 3 minutes.
Had my
I wasn't
time.
really
Yeah,
timing, but
I've had my time, and I appreciate it. And I,
like you're speaking for some others, so we went further.
I'm going to let you speak. You want to come and- It's okay, because you can go in.
I just have just a final comment from Jean, actually.
Could you say who you are, please?
I will. I'm Marty Gearhart. I live at 51 West Market Street next to the Simmonses. What? Marty Gearhart, Martha Gearhart. And so I live at 51 West Market Street, and I met with the Simmons because whichever day, Brent, we met with you, we had kind of a private, Michelle and I had like a private meeting. So I went because I knew Gloria and Jean wouldn't be able to come to the meeting. And I guess I do have a question, or rather, Jean specifically has a question. Jean would like to know what his rights are to absolutely not participate, you know.
Who's Jean? Who's
Jean Simmons. So I don't have that in writing, like you have a letter from Gloria in writing, but I would like to say that the letter that she submitted is absolutely consistent with an independent visit that I made to their home about the issue, so that they could be prepared. Once you told me about where it was going to go and the trench and so on, I went to their house so that they would be knowledgeable and kind of understand what was likely to come. And pretty much, Jean looked at the map, because I took photos, as you know, with my iPhone. Then I put them on the computer and blew it up so they could see what our block would look like. And Jean pretty much looked at it and said, so if I say no, what are my rights? And I said, well, it seems to be something in between eminent domain and not eminent domain. I really can't answer that question. But yes, that was his question to me, and I couldn't answer it either.
Well, if I could jump in, you're at 51 West Market, is that where you are?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I was just trying to. Yeah.
And the only other question I just had about your EDU, it's true that in all of these houses, there are really only 2 people per house, but these are all houses that had as many as 6 people, you know, a husband, wife, 4 kids. Traditionally, it just happens right now to have only 2 people, and all the people on that block are, you know, maybe we'll be there another 20 years, but I kind of don't think so. And hopefully and presumably families will move in. Are our houses marked then as EDUs of 2 people, even though they're really 4 people dwellings, and more than 4 people have sometime lived? I missed that when you were talking about the EDUs.
That's a good question. It's a natural question, really, but it's not a limitation.
Because otherwise, the septic system will be completely outmoded in 10 years. Because I'm guessing that our block will have different families in every one of those homes, and I think all of us are hoping there'll be families with kids who are going to be able to walk to school. It's kind of how I see that block, how I'd like to see it personally. But certainly the village needs to look at those houses. They're really, there's 2 people in them, but they're not 2 people houses. They're kind of big. All right, that's all I really have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Those 2 issues, one for Jean Simmons and that one question.
Well, generally in the course of the public hearing, we try to stick to the topic of the public hearing, which is really, as defined, it's how we based our assessments on the properties. Some of the questions that go into, should we build a sewer system? There were big picture questions, and not to be mean-spirited, but those are already answered. We are moving ahead with the sewer system. I could show you the PowerPoint that we did. One speaker mentioned that they didn't get any other certified mailings, but we did blurbs, postcard invitations several times to folks. We did them at the Elmendorf, and I think at one time the Chamber of Commerce with Bread and Bottle. And we've had a lot of these conversations already, and most people come away, when you look at the big picture, there's a lot of reasons to do this. One, I'm just looking at the names, and I don't want to really pick on names, but if you look at Simmons, one interesting thing is, if you want to look at the wall, their site looks to be 1/10 of an acre, which is really small. It's like a small piece of land. it would beg the question to me, maybe the engineers could answer. It's really hard to even put a working septic system. If that ever failed, I don't know that they could meet DOH rules on that law. Pardon me? Simmons? Yeah, I don't know if it, you know, I don't know if the engineer has something on the top of your head, but the village doesn't govern installation or sizing of septic systems. It's a county Department of Health situation. So if you're adding a bedroom to your house, you go to us for a building permit, but the Department of Health for your permitting on your septics. And most of the times what happens to people, they end up having to invest a lot of money to put a proper size septic in. And a lot of these buildings and parcels in this center area just don't have the space to do it. And when you have a tenth of an acre, I don't know if your house is on a tenth of an acre is your house, first of all, so that whatever is left is where you get to put your sidewalk, your driveway, and your septic system. We could look at a parcel access map, but this particular person uses hardly any water. I mean, that's unbelievable. 44 gallons a day. It implies a single person with not much use of water. And then they would pay $780 per year. And they're one benefit user. The Stearman property is on 3/10 of an acre. They use 239 gallons of water per day. And they're one benefit user too. Be $780 a year. I don't know. Can you guys hear me okay? Jack said they can't hear me, but I don't know. Okay, okay. Oh, okay, good. And then 51 Market came up, West Market, Dominique Michelle. They're 0.31 of an acre also, which, again, it makes it really tight to cite something in there. I could go to our PowerPoint where we promoted and pitched the economic reasons too. One in my mind is an existing septic historically is not carefree, cost-free. Once it's in the ground, you have to pump periodically, maintain, do certain things. They do wear out. If they have a problem, you have to deal with the intricacies and the costs. Whereas what we're issuing and offering is we're going to put in and own a septic tank. We're going to pump it, and it's really going to be a communal worry, a cooperative worry. It's no longer the individual's worry. And I personally think it improves the ecology and the economics, even though the individual landowner, because somebody now, let's say Mrs. Simmons, decides to sell her house, and it's got a 20-year-old septic, and the next owner can't really put a new septic in. What does that do to the value of the house? Whereas with us, we've got a septic that works and is marketable, and she, I think, would have a paper increase in value of her property overnight once our system went in. It's the way we look at it. We're prejudiced a little bit that way, but I think it's a truism. It's you will get more value for your property because of what we're putting in. And on the subsidy issue, we will take that under advisement. You know, we feel for folks on simple single incomes and so forth too. We have something in our water system that helps with that, which we could mimic, but to be honest, there's a lot of large numbers here. The way the sewer service area works, only those that are getting the benefit are paying the fee. So usually in taxation, on a bigger number, okay, we'll pay a little more tax to help those that can't quite afford something. But here you're dealing with 127 property owners, and we do have a little wiggle room in that second grant came in, and how the board deals with that, we could take under advisement. But we could reduce, because those projections you might have seen at our roadshow was, you take the math of what the dollar value of the loan is, the years, the interest rate, you get a number, and you divide it by benefit users. That's the basis of tonight's public hearing. Is that's how we got your assessments. It's yes.
Why is it that in this particular project, unlike so many, the costs are not spread more?
I don't know what.
Why aren't the costs spread over a larger number of people? In other words, why no one on our block has any children in school, and we all pay plenty of school tax. Why is it that it is not something that everybody in the village pays and then divides it up?
Well, I think it goes to an economic / philosophical question. We thought about that. Can you charge every resident in the village? We had this discussion. We could charge somebody on my end of the village $50 to reduce yours to 730, but I'm not getting a direct benefit, whereas the ones in the district, the sewer service area, are getting the direct benefit. I do think your real estate value goes up. You no longer have to fix, repair, or incur expenses on that septic, where if we spread it across everybody, not everybody's getting that. And that was, we talked about that quite a bit as a board. When they're like putting the grass seed back down? Yeah, yeah. I think what you're bringing up, there's, like, we have a little internal joke. When we did Water Phase 2, we narrowed some roads deliberately and put some buried drainage systems. And the contractor, this is the law of low bidding, maybe at its worst, wherever he got his topsoil, quote unquote, from, I saw weeds growing I never saw in my life, you know, and I don't know where he got the soil from. So we had, but in that case, our engineer and the contractors did come back and revisit and do replanting. I think that's what you're getting at. You had a little remark there in your comments, but it's. I'd just be curious, how old is your septic? Just. Would you say 10, 20, 30, 5? I mean, under 10? And what did it cost you? Do you remember? There's, like, well, I mean, that's one point. I think then we'll move on to, we have a regular meeting, but Mr. Budd, you were raising your hand?
I just wanted to know if, because I wasn't aware we had to sign up, so is everybody who wants to speak now have to sign up?
You can stand up and identify yourself, and we just thought, no, we thought, we don't have anybody signed up, so you can jump in. I mean, those that signed up spoke already.
Oh, the beginning and the end.
Yeah. So if you want to stand and identify yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Budd, and I'm from my LLC is Taste Buds LLC, so we own 40 West Market Street. I happen to also be the Scoutmaster and trying to get to the meeting if I can. I'm for the sewer system. Obviously, because I own a restaurant, and for 15 years I've struggled with the sewer and being in compliance. I spent $40,000 2 years ago with a certified expansion from the health department to redo my entire system. It probably is good for the rest of my life. That said, I'm still for the sewer system, mainly on the points that the mayor said. I know that it will improve my property value over years. Right now, I'm at the limit of what I could do for seats in my business, but if there was a sewer system in town, I could maybe add a nicer stage and have some room for some more seats and, you know, improve my business. As, you know, any of us who knows Red Hook, that's, you know, a piece of property that was a home, and, you know, in 1998 it was turned into a business. And so, you know, we're like, we call ourselves the restrooms of Red Hook because we're not a sit-down restaurant, so we get a ton of school kids and moms with babies, and people just come in and use our restrooms, you know, all day long. And I've said to myself, well, that gets them to come in and see the pastry case too. So we've dealt with it, and we try to make it work. I'm trying to quickly remember my questions, but one that I had was a concern in the beginning is that a business like ours, we pay for our water and then we sell our water. If it's soup, if it's chili, if it's coffee. It doesn't all go down the drain. So in the beginning, the financial end looked kind of like a double tax to us, because we were like, you know, we're not putting that back in the sewer system, but we're paying for, you know, what's coming in on water. And I brought that up right away, and the village brought in a meter, and we tried the best we could to separate our water. And it looks like it was around 10% that was the water that we're using for coffee. And you know, I'll just be really honest that I wouldn't want to be cheap about that. I think the benefit is greater than arguing about the 10%, you know, that's not going down the system. for a commercial place. Hearing the people that spoke before me, I definitely hear that and feel for that. I feel like there should be something underneath the benefit unit amount for people who are using really very little water, and try to help them out. If you look at it, the lowest cost is $2.16 a day, right? It's $2.16 a day, or $65 a month to take care of your septic. You know, I know my system, you know, was a lot to put in. I think the general home system is anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 at least, minimum. So I think that it's reasonable. It seems like a reasonable amount, but $65 a month for someone who has no budget for $65 a month is just, it doesn't work for them, and it puts them in the hole somewhere, whether it's heat or food or anything like that. So we need to take care of those people, and we need to make this happen for the future economics. And my other question was, I know that we did a test about what's happening with our water now and what are we doing to the water table in Red Hook with essentially no treatment. I mean, every single business, everything that happens in this town just goes right into the ground. There's history that the ground takes care of things, but I'm not so sure it's taking care of things at this kind of big impact. So one of the reasons I'm for it is because I believe we need to protect our aquifer, and you know, we need to do it right. I heard something a long time ago that we're one of only 2 villages this size that doesn't have a sewer system. So, you know, we're behind the times, and we need to, you know, do something to help. Also, you can see that, I mean, I know since I opened my place, 25 restaurants have opened in this town, and, you know, several in the last 6 to 8 months. So it's, it seems like the food and beverage places are the ones that want to come in and put us on the map. So, so my one concern is to protect the people that don't need the service and somehow financially help them, and maybe get some sort of a rate for those people who are using only 40 gallons a day, so that as those houses fill with more people and use more water, then, you know, they'll pay for what they use. And I'd like to know more about what we discovered from the survey of water heading towards our aquifer or the river, and if there was any poisonous things in there that we are doing to. And my other statement about the businesses, I just have one concern. If a business comes in that does use more water than, say, I do, say they're using 50% for whatever business they're doing, and they're paying for that water, but it keeps making their sewer bill go up, I would be concerned that that wouldn't be fair to that business. And does everyone understand what I'm saying here? No. So 10% of my water does not go in the sewer. You know, I pay for that water. You're charging me on, you know, how much water I use, but 10% of it doesn't go back. You don't have to treat it. It's walking out the door and it's going down the road in somebody's car, and it's leaving the village. So what if a business comes in that, you know, 50% of their water is used for, I don't know, they're making something.
Like a brewery or something.
Yeah, right. And, you know, so is that model fair to them? I'm just putting it out there. The other thing is, and I'll finish with this, I think that this is all, it's going to make us be very conservative. I know I'm going to check all my toilets, and I'm going to make sure that we're not wasting water, because now my sewer bill is going to be rated on how much water I use. What if I conserve water really well, and I reduce my water use by 50%? When does that reflect on my sewer bill? You know, or does my sewer bill say, well, this is his water, and for 6 years we're going to charge him on this? So, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Well, a couple of takeaways are, one is the subsidy issue. I think the board will think about that. I see another question there. One thing I would offer, and I'll take your question, Mr. Trezza. We have what we call brainstorming Fridays. For folks that want to come in and talk to us directly on any more detailed questions, you're always welcome. We meet from roughly 10 to 2 on a Friday up in a conference room where we could answer specific technical questions, pricing questions that are unique to your property if you don't want to hash them out here in the main room tonight. And we've offered that all along from pretty much day one. And a lot of people have come in, you know, looking around. Dan was one. What he did, he raised that issue of, hey, I sell most of my water. And we took it on our shoulders to put a second meter, take his main meter, look at his water usage out of where his coffee goes through, and we came up with that 8 to 10%, you know, which we'll do those kind of things. But anyway, Al, did you have a question? And he's Mr. Al Trezza.
First, I would like to thank Brent for the work he's done on getting this money. I truly appreciate it because it's coming out of our pockets. I'm in favor of the water system, the sewer system, simply because I'm here on behalf of my wife. She owns the 49 West Market Street, and it's a business, and it's in a business district, and of course it's favorable to my personal gain to have a a sewer system there as a business property, so I'm in favor of it. But I'd just like to know, you said that the average use, 150 gallons a day, that translates to 4,500 gallons a month, which translates to about 13,000 to 14,000 gallons a quarter. Is that right?
I'm not doing the math with you, but
well, 3,000 is 100, and half of that's 45, and 3 times 45 is
yeah, it sounds about
okay,
right.
13,
12, 13.
5 when I went to school, but that was a long time ago. But in any event,
100 a day.
Is that the benefit unit that you're using to set the price? Is what I'm asking.
Well, it'd be the base unit to define one benefit user. Yeah.
What is it? What is the gallonage on one benefit unit? That's what I wanted to know.
Gallons per day is the 150. You said. I'm not following the question.
Okay. Well, what I'm asking you is what happens. I have 4 people. Actually, there are 4 people in the office. Mm-hmm. They're there 8 hours a day. Mm-hmm. They go home. Yep. I have one tenant who goes to work for 10, 12 hours a day. So my water usage, I don't know what it really is. I never bothered to look at the gallons. It's the minimum right along. But I'm just wondering, as Mr. Budd brought up, if these people are only using a half a unit, are you still going to charge them for a full unit?
Yeah, if you look on the wall behind you.
Yeah, I couldn't see that.
Here, this thing is your property, Gloria Trezza.
Yeah.
And then these are your numbers here. You're on whatever that is, 0.26 of an acre. And right now you're using 71 gallons a day. And it says, I can't read it. I took my glasses off here.
So that would be the minimum.
Yeah, you would fall into the 150 minimum. And when you think of it, it's like our water system. So you need a certain amount of cash flow to make
I'm
a
well
budget.
aware of that. You
So
gotta
it's
pay interest and bills.
and and that's
Service.
the logic of that. Yeah, it's
All right, so that's what I wanted to know. I just want to know how you were figuring that.
yeah.
So if it's less than the minimum use, you're still going to pay the
Yeah.
780.
So from 0 to 224 gallons
Brent,
per
I
day.
can't hear you.
That's not on, right? So from 0 to 224 gallons per day would be assessed at one benefit unit.
Okay, that's what I answered.
So 225 would be 1.5 benefit units, which would
Raise the price.
the 2.
Yeah,
Right.
I got it. All right, so that's how you're figuring up to 220, up to 224
Right.
would be one benefit unit.
Right.
You could use that, and anything less than that is still one benefit unit.
Right.
Yes.
I have a question about the logistics.
Could you say your name just so?
Jack DePietro,
Okay.
I have a house on Market Street.
Okay.
And, the logistics of
Market.
when I think of a sewer system.
Can I Market east or west? Where's your house?
Oh, I'm on East.
Okay.
Market Street.
Let me just find your data. Okay. Do you transact under your own name or are you a corporation or? Okay.
Still have to run my own.
Okay.
But my question is, when you put in the sewer system, why do you still need a septic tank? I
Well,
don't understand that.
it's a good question.
For example, my septic tank is 100 feet from the street. So I was thinking in my mind that I was going to be responsible for digging the ditch and paying for it from the street to my septic tank. I mean, to where my waste comes out of the back of the building. Because that's where it comes out now. It doesn't come out the front of the building. So what are the logistics of that and who's paying for it?
Okay. These are a little off the topic, but let's do it while we have everybody here. Yeah, what I have on the wall, this is from our PowerPoint, and I don't think I can make it any bigger. It's large. We're building what's called a STEP acronym, another acronym, Brent. Sewage
Septic tank effluent pump.
So essentially, we're giving everybody a brand-new tank and a pumping system. It's a pressure-driven sewage system versus gravity. Gravity would be when people were mentioning tearing up the place. You would destroy Red Hook to build a gravity system today. That's the big pipes underground. You've seen Rome where people walk through them. That, not that big, but you couldn't do it.
Plus
so
the cost is
well, it would just be
substantial,
and it's just the tear up of Route 9. When any project deals with the state highway systems, it's way more costly. So we're coming back lots in different ways. But that's what we're installing. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little dim for me from here, but we give you a tank, the pump. Everything's owned by the village. We pump it, and the engineers have designed a great tool. I love the name of it. It's called a sludge judge. Not everybody needs to pump their tank. Somebody said 13 years. That sounds kind of long. Some say 2 years. But we'll be monitoring and determining when yours will need pumping based on your occupancy versus, say, the funeral home or his law office building. It'll be different cycles. And that'll be in the contract that the village will buy with a pumping company. And we'll come in and pump. If the pump breaks, we replace the pump. We have standbys on in possession of us. We switch them out and we take them back and see what happened.
Okay, so if you're going to install a new tank,
Yeah.
could the new tank hypothetically go in a different spot?
What
Or is it closer to where you want the waste to go?
what we're trying to do is utilize your existing discharge from your house, so you don't have to do replumbing within your house itself.
Well, what if we wanted to, because maybe we want to put an addition where that septic tank is now?
And that's something we could look at with you. Yeah.
If the engineers come, that's what they ask you.
No one-
Maybe just to quickly answer your question on, I thought that I was going to have to connect from my house to the sewer system. A lot of municipalities will put the pipe in the street and make each individual property.
I know that.
So just to clarify that, that's not what the village is proposing. So many people always ask, well, why do I have to connect to the sewer? And say that the town is a lesser decision that the local board made. In this case, the village opted to have the infrastructure installed completely from day one.
I have a third part of the question, and that is, I have to replace a 100-year-old water line. Could that be coordinated at the same time? So I don't have to do twice?
The water line, we own the line from the main to the curb valve. So you're saying after the curb valve, you need, like, on your side of the water line? Is it your water line?
I'm not exactly sure where my plumber just said.
Yeah.
He thinks I need a new water line.
It would make sense. Yeah. Yeah. Come to brainstorming Friday.
I had a question. My name is Jane Scenario, and I am 7537 and 7539 North Broadway. And my question is in regard to the calculation of volume and how often that will be checked, or when do the rates change, or is it just a quarterly thing? Will the bill just automatically change every quarter based on usage? And I ask that question because to the points that other people have made here, this is a static picture that you have up here. And people will sell their homes, and tenants will be moving out of commercial properties, and new tenants will be moving in, and different types of businesses are going to be moving in. So landlords are going to want to know, oh, okay, well, is that going to change my overhead if I'm covering this bill, or am I passing that through? So maybe a little more clarity about how that that number moves up and down, how frequently, and is it with every water bill or whatever?
I'm going to look for it.
And also, do we have an idea of one of the things that I think might happen, and to the point that the gentleman who owns Taste Buds had said that there seems to be already more interest in restaurant type businesses within the village. Well, obviously that might even increase more so, and therefore the usage goes up. And the question is there a lot of capacity for that? And if so, is how much? And then also how is that charge going to be going up and down? How frequently?
All good questions.
I think a lot of this was answered when we passed the sewer use law a couple months ago almost. But yes, we'll be reevaluating the usage of the water, if not on an annual basis, but on a periodic basis. So if a new business such as a restaurant does come in that obviously will use more water, yes, they will be charged based on the amount of water that they use. So based on a benefit unit. So if they use 450 gallons per day as opposed to 150, they'll be charged, you know, with the 3 benefit units on that.
Annually, or maybe more frequently.
Some, yes. And then vice versa. So if we had a very heavy use right now and changed tenants to a lighter use, obviously it wouldn't be fair. So that would be reassessed and reevaluated for the lower usage as well. So, you know.
Timeline-wise, this is the floor to get the budget going and real. And then at some point, things will change, like different people move in. Like, I just pulled yours up just in the spirit of what tonight's about. I see scenario 37-7539 North Broadway. 9/10 of an acre, daily water use 317 gallons, which puts you in the 2 EDU bandwidth. And it says administrative office for group home. And this is the data, you know, we have learned to love. But all good questions.
Did we answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as the
Yeah.
change goes, I think I understand that better. And this is phase 1. What's the strategic planning for phase 2?
At this point, I don't think we really have a strategic plan. A lot of it's based on when development occurs. And then that goes hand in hand with the funding that we are able to obtain. So if it's a private developer, you know, sometimes they'll be asked to put in the system at their cost. If it's an expansion of the service area within the village, we would have to look at additional funding, same process that we're doing now. So this phase that we're doing is pretty much definitive based on how the grants and the loans were underwritten. So X number of benefit units per service area, and that's how they would determine the amount of financial aid that we would be getting from the state.
Brent, could you talk about a little bit?
I just want just real quick too. And you talked about within the sewer use law, we're trying to maintain a surplus capacity in the plant of at least 30%. So if additional businesses came in within the village, we want to really emphasize the point that it's for the village use. So if we do extend the pipe to a town or to a town development, it would be up to the developer to make sure that that 30% is maintained, surplus capacity is maintained within our system for our business uses or for our own development uses. So,
But Brent, we should point out, we took very deliberate steps to prevent anybody cashing in on the first sewer phase 1 people's investment. By that I mean, say the opposite. A few people said they don't want to be in, but say somebody just on the edge said, I want to be in, and they're only 30 feet away. If it's already been paid for and you guys are already in it, it doesn't necessarily make sense to bring one more person in unless we want to bring in 50 or something where we make a big divider number to really cut the budget. We're not going to give somebody else the expansion benefit for nothing, just for being nearby. And that's designed into our mechanisms too. I don't know if you want to explain that anymore, if that's enough, but it's something we thought about. Like, you can't like have the first group pay a lion's share at a cost, and then everybody else just, hey, jump on for operating and maintenance fee down the road. You know, it's got to be, because the two components of costs are the capital costs and the operating maintenance costs. So I think we'll take one more, then we have a real board meeting for the month. I don't want the board to be all cranky at me later. Have you both had questions? Anybody? Well, we should clarify that. as long as they're within the current service area, they're not a new customer. It's just a changing customer. Like somebody buys your house and decides, like Taste Buds, to put a restaurant in, whatever. Okay, bad example, but something where the use is changing, but within the district, yeah, there would be. These are not locked in stone. These are the models of the current occupants and the current uses. So.
There might be a diminished. If the village develops much further than the same buildings you develop, then ours might go down.
Good. I mean, our whole job is, the success. The success of this board has been to find. Jonah joked about OPM, other people's money. Essentially, this is, let's round it, a $5 million project with 1.2 and a million, 2.2 million of it total grant money. So 2.2 over 5 is what, 40-something%. Totally not coming from any Red Hook person. And I hear that argument all the time, but if you don't, it's going to go to Colorado or San Diego or somewhere. We'd rather bring it to Red Hook. And but anyway, that being said, I think we should consider wrapping up the public hearing. Anybody from the board have any thoughts or input?
I took your comments down,
Welcome.
so we have a good.
Yeah, we have them all here, and most of them are very good. Do you want to go one more? Okay. Well, you didn't. Let's see. Okay.
I'd also like to thank them for the dedication and work that you has brought to this project. I have a question which probably isn't assessment, but it's a heritage question. The block that we've been talking about, 51 and 59, is a heritage block. All of the houses are made by historical integrity. The concern I have is if we are now in the sewer plan, does that hold a danger for us in terms of those properties now being desirable in the future for conversion to businesses and to converting that block to a business block? There's one home on the other side of the street with this thing, is a business, but other than that, that block has the old historic integrity. So that's my concern.
So,
It's not motivate requests for that kind of
well,
thing.
I think currently the way it's zoned, R20,000, we are looking at expanding perhaps the general business district, but maybe out east a little bit. We have several different zones that are, and even to the south a little bit. East, is pretty residential from St. John Street all the way east to the schools, basically, and I mean to the border of the village, basically. There's a couple dentist offices along the way, but for the most part, it's all residential. So at this point, yeah.
We made notes, and one of our other projects is rezoning to protect.
Got a lot of work to do on the zoning.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I'd offer everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. Could you?
That all goes through a process, public hearings, and I'll give you a call. Let you know.
I'm trying to wrap up, but somebody just raised their hand in the back. Oh, really? I'm sorry. That big guy in front of you blocking it?
You have office hours from 10 to 2 this Friday where people can come individually and talk to you.
Yeah, we
Technically, people might consider this a holiday weekend, so I want to make sure people
well, I'll be even broader. We have done for 2 years. We call it Brainstorming Friday. Residents are welcome. Oh yeah, we'll be here. We'll be here.
Every
I don't
Friday.
have-
Every Friday
and we listen to
Sewer Fridays.
issues, compliments, zany ideas, positive growth, all kinds of. They're fun days but it's not just. But if you're welcome.
We're up in the conference room about around 10 o'clock, 10:30 to about
Yeah.
2 maybe.
Charts, maps.
The second floor. Yeah. Just stop in.
But anyway, board, I would offer that we close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
You can take a quick break.
Okay, audience, we're going to start the regular meeting post-public hearings. I think, council, you could leave. We'll move on that resolution for Morgan's Way. We have it, and I think we're good.
It's lovely seeing you.
Thank you.
All right. Our large crowd left, and our regular attendees are here. I don't know what it is. They don't like us or something. Anyway, so we opened the meeting earlier with the Pledge of Allegiance, did 2 public hearings. We didn't hit the minutes yet. We had 2 meetings in January. I show the 8th and the 18th. We did circulate the minutes digitally, and I did go through them myself. Would I hear any other additions, alterations, or corrections? Hearing none, I would move that the minutes as submitted and circulated be adopted. Is that all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And while we're on the minutes, about 10 days ago, we had the passing of another dear village resident, Les Cagle, who was known to a lot of us. He was in his 80s and had been sick for a while, and his wife, Brenda Cagle, was taking hospice-type care of him, but he passed away, I think, just about 2 weeks ago now. And unfortunately, I was out of town, and I think they had some services for him. But as is our process, I think I would make a motion that we would leave a blank page in our village minutes in his honor. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good. And then I guess an intro thing while we're still talking about it, before we get into the regular business. Again, today I had more conversations with my new friend at New York State DOT, Lance McMillan, and talked to our highway foreman a little bit, who's up in Vermont as we speak, getting our truck touched up a bit. But apparently this past 3 or 4 days we had another warm rain and flooding on South Broadway. We have had our highway department, we did a shared services mini project with the town, and we have our engineers helping a little bit, looking at the as-built plans from 1985 when the state DOT upgraded the road in that area. What catch basin is whose responsibility, and our position is that they're all post-1985, but they're all interconnected. And this week, Thursday, the state's sending up what they call a Vactor. It's a big truck with a big tank and pumps and wires, not wires, hoses and so forth. And they're going to push and pull and try to clean up whatever is wrong down there. We're having these odd combinations in my mind of frozen ground, rain, snow melt, and there's something definitely wrong with the drainage down there. We see rumors. I don't do Facebook, but I think people are ranging from that somehow our water project did something. But just to correct the record, we on Garden Street in that area, we didn't even come down that whole block. We for internal reasons, nothing to do with drainage, that area was in good shape and had existing curbing and so forth that we didn't want to disturb. So we weren't even near it, so we didn't silt or anything, the catch basins. And I want to remind everybody, it is a state highway. It's in the village, and we're leaning on everybody, but they're supposedly coming in Thursday, and as late as this afternoon, all day really I was working with them, and they should show up Thursday, and our highway guys will be there to guide them through as well. So we are working on that. Anyway, why don't we move to the regular business? Excuse me. Now I'm going to decide to lose my voice, it seems like. But Treasurer, would you like to go first?
Sure. Account balances, general fund, $411,327.26. Water fund, $208.17. Trust and agency, $30,377.41. Materials management, $6,902.10. Petty cash, $25.52. Village green, $4,136.88. Hard scrabble, $4,323.84. Health insurance, $3,442.59. Monthly expenses, general fund, $133,807.30. Water fund, $17,268.70. Trust and agency, $30,377.41. And materials management, $6,890.72. I do want to also mention that there are no village elections this year.
Okay. As far as the budget and the treasurer's report, I always do that monthly count. This is 8th month of 12 of a 12-month fiscal year, so 66 is that? 8 over 12 is 2/3. Yes, 66% of year is elapsed. So if you want to look at your various responsibilities and see if they're hanging in there at or about 66%, that'd be good. I know too. While we're talking budgets, this Thursday we have a workshop, and I just want to remind everybody, make sure it's on your calendars. We start our budget discussions, and our tentative budget's not due till March 20th, but we can start plugging the numbers. The fun part in follow-up to our meeting, the public hearing that just ended, we will have to create a water, let me take that back, a sewer budget from scratch. We have data and we have numbers, but it's going to be interesting, like going from a non-functioning zero fund balance entity to make it come live and spring to life and pay its expenses as it grows. So you have to keep your creative thinking on for that one. But is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. As far as police report, I got that in front of me. We did get a little disturbed. We had the fire company come in, and Rob Fry gave some numbers. And like we said, we are graphing that to look at comparisons of town usage versus village usage, and with regard to future contracts and so forth. I do have a spreadsheet that we're working with. I guess now we have about 4 months of data on that, which is good. They did also turn in their that one audit we were looking for the year 2016. And I did say 16. They have a calendar year, this fiscal year, so but we just get 2016, and it did show them with a pretty significant hold on that cash fund balance that we saw in prior audits. We haven't seen their 17 year yet, but we'll see, because we know they bought that one new big truck in that sometime in that intervening time. As far as our police, for the month of January, same thing. We're now keeping a graph, spreadsheet should be a better word, and because we do have the town giving a little more contribution towards some of our expenses, and therefore the numbers are picking up. Incidents-wise, we had 302 total. That breaks out 224 in the village of Red Hook, 75 in the town of Red Hook, 3 in the village of Tivoli. Tickets issued out of that were 70 in the village, 1 parking ticket, and then in the town, 37. Looks like that's a total of 108 to me, but maybe that 1 parking ticket snuck in there somehow. Anyway, arrests 21. The breakout is 12 in the village and 9 in the town of Red Hook. That'd be it for me in that realm. Mr. Trustee Trapp is not here, so I'll take his. In your packets, we have the 2 pages. It looks like building permits issued were 4. Certificates of occupancy issued 1. Certificates of compliance, I show 5. Municipal searches, 6 of those. And then orders to remedy 0, stop work 0, court appearances 0. And fire inspections, they refers to the attached report. As far as planning board, there was no January 2018 meeting due to no agenda. And ZBA, there was a January 25 meeting, area variance granted to property located at Firehouse Lane, listed on a tax grid, and they give a number ending 388518. It's actually a rather interesting project. It's somebody from the Westchester County area whose husband's a fairly renowned artist, now deceased, is looking to put an art gallery in that space right across from the firehouse, and it looks like it's well designed architecturally and so forth from the little sketches I've seen. And George out there in the audience is a chair of our ZBA, and he's a little familiar, but it's nice little use on that stretch there, that one spot. The church has been trying to sell it for 10 years or whatever. And, but that's the one that they're referencing there. I think it's good news for the village, good news for everybody. Let's see. maybe Ms. Norris, you want to go with your stuff?
For the month of January, we had 11.7 tons of garbage and 5.84 tons of single-stream recycling. We paid out $1,370.10 and sold $3,517.25 in garbage tags. We did have our annual e-waste event in January, which is held alongside the town of Red Hook CAC. We had about 23 pallets of e-waste. Special thanks to the Bard Center for Civic Engagement, who provided the volunteers for the event. Events coming up. We have our annual egg scramble Saturday, March 24th, which is run with the Red Hook Police Department and the Red Hook Public Library. Hopefully we'll be having a meeting on that this week to solidify some plans for that. Apple Blossom Day will be Saturday, May 12th. This event is run by the Red Hook Rotary, so for more information, contact David Wright. In the library, the Arts Mid-Hudson Folk Arts Program and the Red Hook Public Library are collaborating to present a Chinese Lunar New Year celebration from 1 to 3 this Saturday, February 17th at the Hendrick Hudson Masonic Lodge in Red Hook. This special cultural event features activities and crafts for both adults and children, traditional dumplings and snacks for tasting, and a colorful indoor parade. Red Hook Library is hosting a number of workshops leading up to the Saturday event, such as puppet and dumpling making. And please check the library for details. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Lang, you want to go ahead there?
With the
water report?
Water Treatment Facilities Monthly Report, a slightly new format given our new consultants, VRI Environmental Services, Inc. So during the month of January, the water treatment facility treated 6,450,646 total gallons, which is an average of 208,085 gallons a day. Looking back a year, in January 2017, the water treatment facility treated 6,276,000 gallons. However, that was only for 27 days because IT issues prevented the system from monitoring the remaining 4 days of the month. So the average flow a year ago was 232,444 gallons. So that's you know, a 12% efficiency there in the daily flow values. They took a number of bacteriological samples for the month, which were collected from Cherry Street, South Broadway, and Morgan's Way, and all bacteriological samples were absent from total coliform and E. coli. And during the month of January, the water treatment plant used 50 gallons of sodium hypochlorite. The average daily use was 1.61 gallons per day. And I think I might talk to the Fernando to see if we can get a sort of conservation comment. I like those.
I know. I'm feeling a little empty inside without that.
Are you?
Yeah. A little something to
Can
keep
you
us going.
conjure one up off the cuff tonight? Or?
Google something. You don't have like the water conservation a day
I'm
calendar?
not in an off-the-cuff move.
Okay. We're joking. We usually have, what is it, from the Farmer's Almanac, some sort of water conservation tip. But,
shut your sink off when you're brushing your teeth.
There you go.
That's a basic.
Okay, that's a good one, Jen. But like Charlie indicated, we did switch. We now have VRI Environmental giving us water operations supervision, and we're bringing more of the operation into our highway department. Chris Kuhn took his tests and passed, and he's finalizing some paperwork. So but it's working well. One part of it is, too, that VRI currently operates the town of Red Hook's water system, and then also operates the sewer treatment plant for the senior citizen project. So we're looking to consolidate a little bit there with their skill and their talent set. So it'll work. Thank you, Charles. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about? Were you roaming at, did you cover something for us? Brent, did you make Northern Duchess Alliance, or?
I didn't make it.
I did attend the Northern Duchess Alliance annual breakfast meeting at the Beekman Arms back on Thursday.
Yeah, it was a snowy day, right? Whatever that was here.
It was a snowy day. I thought they might cancel, but they didn't cancel. It was a good showing and a good presentation by a consultant who does branding efforts. And I guess the Northern Duchess Alliance is looking into opportunities of regional branding. And they gave out some awards as well.
Okay.
It was a good event.
Good, thanks.
I also was part of we had a conference call this morning on the streetlight, the Hudson Valley Streetlight Consortium project. So that's moving along, and we can talk about that some more.
Okay.
And I was at as was Jennifer, at the Yum Yum ribbon cutting.
Oh, how was that?
Very exciting.
Very good.
Yes.
That's good.
Tim Gomez, Master of Ceremonies.
Yeah, I was out of town, so we sent the new guys out. And Brent's been working so hard or something. He could, if Brent couldn't make it to food, you know.
Well, I did stop by for dinner, though.
Oh, for dinner? Oh, you
Just a little late.
Got some leftovers.
Anyway, segue off then, I guess, to Deputy Mayor Kowalczyk. You ready to work?
I am. Village Green monthly report for the month of January. Current balances of the Village Green Committee's related budget accounts are as follows. Community beautification, $2,846. Shade Tree contractual, we have a negative balance of $6,350. And the Village Green checking account balance of $4,136.88. There were no Village Green committees held during the month of January. The Village Green Committee's 2017 Tree City U.S. application was submitted on January 11th. Confirmation of the successful submission of the application was received by the village from George Proffice, the New York State DEC, New York State Regional Coordinator of Region 3. And the village board would like to thank Brenda Cagle for preparing and submitting the Tree City application. And I know she was busy helping her husband, and she managed to prepare this for us, and we're very grateful for her. Village Green Committee officers are invited to the annual Tree City, Tree Campus, and Tree Line recognition ceremony at the Albany Marriott Hotel on March 29th. Officers interested in attending may contact David Pearson or myself for registration materials and information. This is a nice program. Everyone from the state shows up in Albany and gets their awards. We usually get a new flag and stickers and hats and T-shirts and all good stuff. Village of Red Hook Highway Department monthly report for January. The village's snow ordinance is in effect until March 31st. No parking is permitted on village streets from 11 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock a.m. and on New York State highways. That'd be Route 9 and 199 from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. during the same period. When snow and ice removal operations are underway, any vehicle parked or abandoned on any street may be removed by or under the direction of the Red Hook Village Police Department or any other responding law enforcement agencies. And the costs associated with vehicle towing and storage will be charged to the vehicle's owner. The owner and/or occupant of every building lot in the village with an adjoining sidewalk shall remove snow and ice within a 24-hour period of a snowstorm. I know it's been difficult for people because it's been snowing and icing, and DOT and village people have been coming by and replowing and widening, so we're grateful for those who have persevered and cleared their sidewalks. Discussions to improve drainage on Route 9 on South Broadway and Garden Street have been conducted. Ed already went through that. A new snow blower has been purchased by the village for the highway department to assist personnel with removing snow in the village municipal parking lot and adjoining sidewalks of the village building. I think they do appreciate that. And no scrap metal was sold during the month of January. Total revenue generated this fiscal year is $2,510.60. Since inception of the scrap metal recycling program in September of 2007, $24,722.17 has been generated. And proceeds from this program go toward the purchase of tools and equipment for the village highway, water, Materials and Materials Management Department. Anyone interested can contact the clerk's office or the highway department, and they will also assist by picking up scrap metal upon request. And as Ed mentioned, our foreman's up in Vermont getting the grates put on the new truck, and I think they're looking forward to using that in the next, if we have a next snowstorm. So that's all good.
We'd prefer it, they don't need it, but
We would definitely prefer it. So the Red Hook Sewer Project, we heard a lot of stuff already. Meetings were held. This is our weekly Friday meetings. During the month of January, we met on January 5th, 12th, 19th, and 26th in the Red Hook Village building. Approximately 4 remaining requests for information surveys and questionnaires have not been returned by property owners within the sewer service area, which we just learned tonight. I guess that's a pretty good record. So Ed Vopalak from CT Mail continues to schedule meetings with private property owners to walk them through the project and ascertain some information necessary to include on our drawings. CT Mail is finalizing design documents as part of the project. Existing septic cesspool tanks will be removed where they are to be replaced with new compliant tanks. All multiple discharge pipes from buildings within the service area will be connected to tanks. Some properties have multiple septic tanks, and so they will all be connected. All existing restaurants will receive 2 pumps per tank, 1 for service and 1 backup for emergency, along with grease traps. Any tank subject to vehicular traffic or paved areas, such as a parking area or driveway, will receive manhole covers to cover plastic gasket corners and provide the ability to be driven over. Approximately 65 of the 127 draft easements have been prepared by CT Mail Associates engineers Ryan, Biggs, Clark, and Davis. All draft easements are expected to be complete by the first half of February. The draft easements and maps will be reviewed by the village attorney prior to being released for property owners' review and signatures. So that's the next really big step, is to secure the easements of all the properties within the service area. And we discussed methods and procedures to reassess the EDU based on changes in property use. So these are things that we've already talked about at a public hearing. The Village Board of Trustees approved Resolution Number 1 of 2018, resolution to schedule public hearing and apportionment of local assessments. We did have that meeting. Notice of filing the map plan report was prepared by the village attorney. And notices were sent via regular mail and certified mail to all property owners in the service area. And it seemed like it worked because a lot of people showed up. And we also published this in our official newspaper, the Daily Freeman. We, at these meetings, discussed a possible application to the Dutchess County Partnership for Manageable Growth Program for possible subsequent phases of the Red Hook Sewer Project. And at some point in time, we'd love to talk to our county legislator about our proposals for that. So just to keep you abreast of what we're thinking. The village attorney are reviewing the 3-part updated title report for the Red Hook Commons Sewage Works Corporation, transfer of ownership of land and existing treatment plant to the village of Red Hook, sent by Cannon, Heyman, and Weiss, which are the attorneys for Red Hook Common. Our preliminary timeline for the sewer project, around March, April. We want to comply and address comments and revisions as per the Dutchess County Department of Health, New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, New York State Department of Health, New York State Department of Transportation, United States Department of Agriculture, Rural Design, and then secure the easements or initiate proceedings for each property in the service area and advertise for estimate of construction costs and bids. So that would be March, April. That's hopeful. Hopefully we can do it. May and June, around that time period, we hope to award the contract for construction and issue a notice to proceed. So we're hoping to get started in June. July, we'll secure the ownership of the Red Hook Commons Sewage Works Corporation existing plant and land and begin construction. It's an 18-month construction schedule that we're anticipating. Probably, hopefully it won't go that long, but we're looking at a December 2019, January 2020 completion time. The Red Hook Village Water Project Phase 2, we're almost done with that. Meetings were held on January 5th, 12th, 19th, and 26th at the Village Building. We discussed with the water operating companies to assist in finalize decommissioning procedures for the Tower Street elevated storage tank and verification of proper and functioning control systems at the municipal well field pump house. We are looking at a potential Red Hook Water Project Phase 3. We did meet briefly to talk conceptually on January 19th and 26th. We reviewed the possible scope of work and preliminary estimates and potential funding sources for the area. CT Mail to verify and or initiate applications to submit for inclusion on the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Intended Use Plan, or the IUP as we love to call it, and initiate the application for possible Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant program. Red Hook Municipal Water Projects. Estimates have been received from Smith Well Drilling Incorporated on January 23rd, 2018 for the maintenance and repair of well number 12. Estimated cost for the inspection of existing pumps and motor is $5,100. That does not include possible motor repair and replacement. And I think we did have some updates on that. And on January 26th, Ed and I met with Dutchess County Transit Coordinator John C. Ando to discuss possibilities to improve and or expand services provided by the Dutchess County Public Transit Systems. On the task force side, I've been attending, Charlie's been attending too. I don't know if you officially represent the village yet, but he's representing the town planning board at this.
I think I'm just going for fun right now.
Really? Fun? All right. Meetings were held on January 12th, 18th, and 26th at the Red Hook Town Hall. And we are reviewing the Village of Red Hook zoning law, just cursory, and discuss future cooperation and assistance from the task force with amending and revising the existing village zoning provisions. We discussed possible uses for the existing Sky Park, currently located in the Red Hook Town Zoning District, RD3. We discussed the task force reorganization to include 3 members each from the villages of Tivoli and Red Hook. And we discussed the New York State laws regarding short-term rentals and received updates on the town of Red Hook solar provisions and well field projects regarding new federal tariffs on solar panel components. One more report.
One more?
One more.
Oh, where is it? What is it?
The Red Hook Economic Development Committee, Ed's been attending as the village liaison. EDC meetings were held on January 10th and 24th in the Village of Red Hook building. The status reported updates on the village sewer project as presented by Ed Blundell. They discussed the priority goals, including continue to work toward a speedier Red Hook Town planning review process, to monitor and influence the adoption of any proposed Red Hook Town ordinance regarding franchise businesses, and continues to support existing businesses, especially through cooperative marketing campaigns and enhanced social media outreach. There were no Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board meetings held during the month of January. The current balance of the CPF as of January 31st is $987,151.48. There were no Town of Red Hook Zoning Review Committee meetings. I'm a member of that committee. The Sawkill Watershed Community met on January 17th at the Elmendorf Inn, and there was a screening of a film by the Connecticut River Watershed Council and Conservation Law Foundation on floods, floodplains, and wetlands, and an overview of streams and wetlands within the Sawkill watershed, and an update on the town of Red Hook's water withdrawal moratorium were reviewed, and that is it.
What is the update on the town of Red Hook's water withdrawal moratorium? Is there
a moratorium on there as far as, so I don't know what the update is.
Still pens, you mean? Okay. 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 Well, thank you. Just wanted to add a little more piece to one of, on when Brent talked about the meeting he and I had with John Ando from Dutchess County Transit Administrator, since we have the county legislator out there too. Interesting fellow. They hired him, the county hired him from the city of Austin, Texas, and he seems to come with some youthful and energetic ideas about mass transit and so forth. And so we were pushing him on a couple ideas here. We always struggle, you know, how can that bus, they no longer call it the loop bus, but it just seems like more has to be done to get people aware of its route, its schedule, its timing, and could it connect more to train stations? And the guy listened, and they did file, we suggested that he show up for Apple Blossom Day and Hardscrabble Day, and I did see paperwork transact where he's coming for Apple Blossom Day with a 30-foot bus, and just something to get a little more presence. Because I think even myself, if people knew, hey, you hitch a ride to Rhinebeck and come back in an hour and a half, you might decide to hop the bus from here instead of driving and so forth.
We do have, that I find out, we do have designated bus stops.
Yeah, and then we were teasing him about a couple things, but one idea too was the Bard students do use their own shuttle, and you know, do they need that shuttle? Because the county bus system also goes through that campus. You know, is it duplication of effort or not? You know, certain things they could look at. So we thought we'd invite him back up to meet the Bard transit people and see, could they save Bard some money or somehow work something out with the shared services side of it. But it was a good meeting with that guy. I was impressed. So if anybody had any thoughts, because I think it's the best kept secret, not intentionally, it's just people don't like to use it. And we struggle with the 10,000 cars a day on 9 and 14,000 through the intersection. Could some of them be reduced somehow with a bus? Maybe. And let's see. We can move, it looks like, to regular business. We hit a few of them. We put the court grant, Judge Treebosser and Martin in front of everything. So just to recap, they did get $7,000 new money for some upgrades. I think we'll wait, though, until the winter's over before we put a new carpet in the main building sections. No sense wrecking it with, I don't know, those in the audience, but I don't know where people find certain things they step in when they come into the building. but the winter's even worse. So
They're trying to get tiles instead of like.
It's going to be carpet tiles, actually. Not vinyl tile, but carpet tiles. Yeah, and
top section.
Then they're going to renose the steps as part of the deal, like a different kind of a step system. And it's going to be a project because the offices are just laden with heavy desks and file cabinets. But anyway, that'll be good. Budget sessions, again, just remind, this week we'll start our first one Thursday night. Public hearing, what I want to do is, in line with the budget sessions, like we said at the prior month's meeting, it looks like we get this year, unbelievably, a full 2% ability as far as the tax cap. And it looks like, unfortunately, healthcare costs will probably take that right away. But that being said, we do have to do that proactive or protective step where we set a public hearing to do a local law to override the tax cap with the full supposition that we're going to stay within the cap would be my preference. You know, we don't know till we know. And then we rescind the local law to exceed the tax cap after we adopt the budget. So it's a bunch of technical steps to get there. So I did prepare a resolution. I think it should be in your packets. It's just really setting the public hearing. I'm suggesting we do it the March 12th meeting. I'll read the whereas. Whereas the Village of Red Hook may require an enabling local law to allow a tax cap override for the upcoming fiscal year 2018-19. Whereas the final version of the previous budgets has remained within the requisite tax cap. Whereas there may be a need to override the tax cap as a local law in 2018. Therefore, be it resolved that the Village Board will schedule a public hearing on the tax cap override law for March 12, 2018 at 7 p.m. to consider a tax cap override, and the clerk will publish notice in the Kingston Freeman. And what we'll have is the actual law and things. It's a boilerplate text, but don't take it the wrong way. I don't think we want to or need to exceed the cap, but we'll do something.
Is there a resolution number on that?
Cindy was working with just modifying the law we used last year, but we don't need that to pass the public hearing part. So essentially, 7 o'clock next month, we would talk about it and do it. So I would offer that the board, you call it number 3, adopt resolution number 3 of 2018 to give us the public hearing to enable us to move to adopt a local law to override the tax cap. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thanks. While we're in the voting mood or mode, in line with the public hearing that we had at 7 p.m. on the discontinuance of a portion of Morgan's Way, in your packet should be a resolution. And then, I don't know if anybody needed any more discussion, but like I said there was constructed and unconstructed portions of Morgan Way. And we're talking about an unconstructed area that we don't use. And council put text in the resolution that talked about that it's on page 2. The subject area was never constructed, paved, or otherwise opened as a village street. The subject area is not currently passable. Excuse me, cameraman. For ingress or egress by vehicle or other traffic. The subject area does not connect to any other village street and is not utilized as a part of a street network. The subject area is useless as a right-of-way and not necessary for any public purpose. We did look, Brent, it doesn't match up with any future uses of any grids anywhere. And like I said, it makes sense, and it's going to get cleaned up because even though it was, quote, ceded to the village, it was never deeded to the village, so council will take care of that. So we'll give, I guess, is there such a word, unseed, reseed, seed? We will, could read this out loud. I don't know who feels like you're going to move for reading a bunch of whereases. We usually have Mr. Trapp do this, but do you have it in front of you there, Brent? Maybe just from the whereases there.
I believe this is resolution number 4. Right?
Okay.
The resolution to discontinue a portion of a village street or Morgan's Way, whereas the Village of Red Hook has established a municipal sewer system to serve the village pursuant to Article 14 of the New York State Village Law, parenthetical, the sewer project, and whereas in connection with the sewer project, the village proposes to acquire 10.662 acre parcel of property, parenthetical, the sewer property from Red Hook Commons Sewage Works Corporation, parenthetical, RH Commons, together with an existing sewer plant located adjacent to Morgan's Way. And whereas Morgan's Way was accepted for dedication as a village street by the Village of Red Hook on April 7th, 2008, but fee title to the roadbed was never conveyed to the village and remained with the Kearney Realty and Development Group, Incorporated. And whereas dedication of Morgan's Way included a .142 acre parcel of undeveloped property located adjacent to the travelway for use as a municipal commuter lot, as more specifically described in Attachment A to this resolution and as depicted on the map prepared by Moore's Associates, included as Attachment B to this resolution, parenthetical, the subject area, and whereas the village no longer desires to establish a municipal commuter lot, and whereas the village and Red Hook Commons desire to reconfigure Morgan's Way in connection with the acquisition of the sewer property, which requires the village to discontinue the subject area, and whereas pursuant to sections 6-612 and 6-614 of the village law, a village may by resolution discontinue dedication of a street in a village after a public hearing, and whereas on February 8, 2016, the Village Board of Trustees adopted a negative declaration for the sewer project, and whereas on June 8, 2017, the Planning Board adopted a negative declaration for the proposed lot line alteration for the sewer property, which included the proposed discontinuance of the subject area, and whereas the Board of Trustees scheduled a public hearing on the discontinuance of the subject area for February 12th, 2018, notice of which was published in the Daily Freeman on January 30th, 2018, and whereas the duly noticed public hearing was held during which all those who wished to speak were heard, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees makes the following findings of fact. 1, the subject area was never constructed, paved, or otherwise opened as a village street. And 2, the subject area is not currently passable for ingress or egress by vehicular or other traffic. And 3, the subject area does not connect to any other village street and is not utilized as part of the village street network. And 4, the subject area is useless as a right-of-way and is not necessary for any public purpose. Be it further resolved by the Board of Trustees as follows. 1, the subject area is not and has not ever functioned as a village street and otherwise serves no village purpose or function. And 2, it is in the public interest to discontinue the subject area as a village street. And 3, the subject area is hereby discontinued as a village street. And 4, the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to update the village's inventory of roads. I guess I would offer that as
resolution. Motion to adopt resolution number 4 as read. I'll second it. Yeah, just going through it. I introed it at the public hearing with the maps and the sketches and so forth. Essentially, we're going to make that hammerhead that's up on the wall now, and then we can come through here with our service equipment and to get to the sewer treatment plant as it's built. And it gives back this part to the current property. And technically, what the document is saying, it's really never technically been deeded to the village, but we're protecting what was interpreted to be ceded to the village. We're just saying didn't technically formally happen, but it's never been paved. We've never used it, and it makes sense to do this to get better access for us. Anyway, a bit technical, but makes sense. So it's been drafted and coordinated by Rodenhouse Shaw. That's why some of those statements are in there as far as that we've never constructed or spent any money in there of our money. Does everybody understand it pretty well? That being said, put it to a vote. I think it's been moved and seconded. I will vote yes. Mr. Kowalczyk?
yes.
Mr. Lang? And Ms. Norris? Yep. Okay. Thank you. It carries. The last thing I had, let's see. It just came in coincidentally. You might recall during the course of, I guess, summer, late fall, late summer, early fall, we were working with the county in the latest version of New York State's shared services, tax incentive plans and so forth, and we looked at ways between the town and the village and county and different entities to share some services. And one thing we came up with was right now we still struggle. How much should we fund Panda? Are they the latest and state-of-the-art way to get our message out and so forth? But one aspect of it rings true is that it is a way to share services to get messages out between the 5 munis, and we still continue to support them, but we haven't signed the agreement. And they often ask for a 5-year contractual agreement, which we've been a little loath to go that long. But the county wrote to me yesterday, or let's see, could have been this morning because it had to be either Friday or Monday, but they're looking for us to sign an IMA with the 5 munis and Panda. So I wrote to Eric Ryback, who's the current president that we met once or twice here at the board, and saying, in my opinion, the current 5 years worded quite obtusely in many ways, and it might not reflect what Panda really does today compared to what they used to do. So, but we don't have to vote anything tonight, but what I'm thinking is I pushed him and copied the other 5 parties in Panda that, you know, we need to sign this and get something, because what this tax sharing, this shared services plan involves is the things that qualified that we shipped off to the state's offering to reimburse us certain of our costs for shared services. So they met the test of, hey, they are shared services, they've been filed with the state, and then if we sign this, we're not going to be paying Pan any more than we do. We might be able to get some money back. So, but it still boils down to getting a contract we like. I'm thinking 5 years is way too long, but something shorter and something a little more clean could work. So I could keep you posted on that. Eric, I just wrote to him this morning, so we haven't heard back anything. I guess he's still out there as Panda president. And that's all I had on the agenda. Anything from board that you would like to talk about while we're here? And as is our wont, we then go to the audience. And Mr. Munn, we have the county legislator here, rather, give me a promotion. What would you like to say?
Chris Munn, county legislator, just coming to visit. I'm trying to come to at least one meeting every month in each of the 3 municipalities here, the 2 villages and the town.
Good.
And glad to be here today. Actually, the county is closed today for Lincoln's birthday. So my meeting that would normally be today is tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So we had our first meeting in January. We have another meeting coming up tomorrow. Really not a lot that's going to affect on the agendas that's affect people right up. There is something new coming up. That'll probably be in March, which is a proposed local law to raise the age at which people can purchase tobacco and e-cigarettes from 18 to 21. And that would be a county-wide law. So that's been proposed and will be discussed. We've already had a presentation from, I believe it was the American Heart Association, American Lung Association, and the Board of Health. So that'll be discussed in March's meeting. So if anybody has any comments or wants to give any feedback on that proposed local law, I'd be happy to hear it.
I think you're pulling all leg. I think you're pulling, whatever. Where do you think the kids get the cigarettes from? They don't work. The parents buy the cigarettes for them.
George, I didn't put it.
I want to just say, go back to them and tell them, I don't like it. I think they're a bunch of idiots.
George, come on now.
But anyway, anyone who wants to contact me can reach me or can call me at 845-293-2088. You can text me at that number as well. You can either the website and my Facebook, so please do reach out anytime with any issues at the county level, and I would love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear your feedback as well about the upcoming smoking law. That's it.
Well, good, Chris. Yeah, we do appreciate your coming, and it's good to see you here. And let's see, we talked about the bus thing a little bit. If you can think of anything on that, I think it's got a lot of potential.
I'm going to talk to them about getting some extra materials to make sure they at least have a table as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a table at Apple Blossom Day. People free to come stop by, and try to bring as much county materials and information down at my table as possible about not just the buses, but other services, senior services and stuff like that that are available from the counties.
Good.
Are you around on Fridays at all, or just so we can just?
It could be for the brainstorming session.
Yeah, just we just need a couple minutes every time just to run through what we're thinking about
on that
for the Partnership for Manageable Growth grant.
Make it this Friday. If not, I'm sure I can.
Yeah, any Friday, but because I think that the application is not until fall of October, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we need your support, I guess. So that's why.
I'm sure you'll have it.
Good.
Good.
Thanks,
Chris. So we heard from Legislator Munn. We heard from Bishop Beekman on the background there.
Don't do it again.
Oh,
It's not shared services. It's a joke.
well, I don't know.
You might use smoke signals. Honestly, come
Uh,
on.
But George, you come to all the meetings. You know what's going on. We need other people.
Obviously, the other people showed up for one thing and just disappeared because they don't care.
Well, thank you, sir. Mr. Zarchuk, anything? You good? Okay. All right. I think we've had the public comment, and I know Cindy was circulating the vouchers.
Are these special ones or no?
Yeah, I'll show you them in a minute. But then, so it'll be a motion to pay bills after audit. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? And then, Mr. Kowalczyk, you want to go?
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Good night, everybody.